An ex-NYC undersheriff sidelined for whistleblowing about illegal cannabis raids, you guys. That's right. The Bronx former undersheriff was relegated to a cubicle and stripped of his duties for sounding the alarm that the pot raids under Mayor Eric Adams' initial crackdown were illegal, the lawsuit says. Derek Shuzinski said a sterling 10-year career with the New York City Sheriff's Office that all came crashing down after Anthony Miranda took over as city sheriff in May of 2022, according to a Brooklyn federal lawsuit filed last week. Miranda immediately began discriminating against Shuzinski, who's skyrocketed his role at just 32 because of his age and his leadership role as a vice president in the sheriff's union, court papers claim. The plaintiff eventually ended up in the agency's version of a no man's land after revealing the illegality of the Adams administration initial pot shop crackdown, his lawsuit states. In a quote, "I was working as a police officer for a reason. I loved it. I wanted to help people," Shuzinski recently told the Post. "Being moved to a room where I had a 2-hour commute in each direction to serve no function is completely demoralizing," he says. Shuzinski, who was a PhD and is slated to start law school in 2 weeks, was retaliated against after he started warning Miranda that the raids of illegal cannabis vendors were unconstitutional because they were being conducted under the guise of tobacco inspections, and the officers also showed up armed without search warrants, said the court papers and the plaintiff. None of the businesses the office raided actually sold tobacco, the lawsuit says, and the agent's actions violated search and seizure protections under both the 4th and 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the suit says. To date, the city has helped close 1,009 unregulated pot outlets across the state and seized $63 million in illegal weed as it tries to halt the wild proliferation of rogue shops after New York legalized marijuana. Shuzinski's suit also says that as shops were being shuttered, the sheriff's office was seizing erroneous amounts of the drug and struggling to find places to store the substance, which sickened and an overwhelming number of deputies and staff. Many workers, in quotes, were experiencing significant health issues as a result of handling and storing seized marijuana. That just sounds crazy to me. And in fact, E. coli, salmonella, and lead were found in some of the drugs that were seized, the suit says. In just under 3 months alone, from November 2022 through January 20th of 2023, the office confiscated a whopping 600 pounds of marijuana, the suit says. 600 pounds is millions of dollars. In a quote, "The amount of marijuana seized was so vast that the defendant Miranda ordered deputy sheriffs to store the marijuana in unsafe conditions without any regard for the safety of his employees," the papers allege. Shuzinski claimed they were storing marijuana wherever they could. They had cargo containers filled with marijuana. We had offices and closets filled with marijuana, vehicles filled with marijuana. They were literally storing it anywhere they could think of, he said. How about in the trunks of their cars? But this was all done without any training or procedures of how to confiscate, handle, and store the contraband, bud, Shuzinski and the filing allege. Shuzinski said that after he questioned the illegality of the raids and raised the health issues, he was demoted. That included being stripped of his guns, badge, and all his duties, to the point he wasn't even allowed to access work emails or enter any facility other than the building where he was reassigned, the suit said, and Shuzinski says. Then, in May 2nd of 2023, after he attended a funeral at a church for the mother of a deputy sheriff, Shuzinski was met with SWAT team and frisked by a superior who eventually slapped him with disciplinary charges for a previously unsubstantiated 2021 City Department of investigation, the filing claims, you guys. Oh, wow, they're investigating an investigation. Look at that. The charges were tied to a probe from November of 2020 through January of 2021 against Shuzinski and some colleagues accused of misconduct while seizing contraband evidence during an enforcement operation, the lawsuit says, noting the case was eventually dropped. And Shuzinski's lawyer, Paul Laguerre, told the Post that magically, right after my client threw his union complaints about the pot shop crackdown and health issues, this DOI referral and complaint comes back up from years ago, he says. The SWAT team drove to the plaintiff's home and illegally seized his personal weapons and other belongings such as his diploma, family photos, and kitchen appliances that he had at the office, claiming it was part of its probe, the suit says. And Shuzinski was suspended for a month over the debacle, only to get reassigned in June of 2023 to a position in Manhattan, 2 hours away from his home in Nassau County, for a no-work job in a cubicle where he was barred from earning any overtime pay, the suit and Shuzinski claim. In his new role, Shuzinski wasn't allowed into any other department facilities, and when he entered the Manhattan building where he was assigned, he had to go through the security line with civilians since he was stripped of his work badge, he said. Oh, it's so... He also couldn't help or speak with any of his staff because he didn't have access to his work email or other work communications, he said. And Shuzinski said his breaking point came after months and months of that without any real end in sight. And it was progressively getting worse. It came to a point where it wasn't worth it to do it anymore, he told the Post, and they won. They got their pound of flesh, he said. He eventually quit his job in October of 2023 after roughly 5 months of showing up for his no-work job, but he continued to be paid through July 27th for vacation time he never used, he said. Shuzinski started a new position in May of 2024 as the Commissioner of Public Safety for the town of North Hampstead on Long Island, and in a quote says, "They chose to punish him," Laguerre said of city officials and his client. "They did everything they could to silence him, and that's not going to stop him." Laguerre also says he hopes the lawsuit will help make his client whole again after his alleged mistreatment, and the City Department of Finance, which oversees the sheriff's office, said the claims in the suit are from before the city's Operation Padlock to protect, which are our current operations, suggesting changes have been made. In an additional quote, "We will review the complaint," the office added, and they also say there are now 103 legal cannabis stores open throughout the Empire State, and the surge of unlicensed shops, of which there are an estimated 2,900 in the Big Apple, came after Governor Andrew Cuomo signed the bill legalizing adult-use marijuana back in 2021, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man. And I thought everybody loved a good whistleblower. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
You know, the scariest part of me is that unsafe storage.
Right?
I sniffed the marijuanas one time, and look what happened to me.
I mean, I can't believe that these people are claiming that they're getting sick from the weed being stored there. I mean, they must
be fucking moldy ass last year's
bro,
weed,
it's gotta have so much powder mold in it. It's gotta be like maybe like that Truly facility in Massachusetts.
The powdery mildew looks like
out of this,
LeBron
Jason.
his hands.
What's that, Matthew?
Can we please leave True Leaf out of this? We know they're the most caring Death Star ever.
Fair enough. What was that, Jenny Beth?
I said the powdery mildew in there. It looks like when LeBron James claps his hands. You know what I mean? Right before the game.
Oh, the chalk.
Baby powder.
The baby powder. Oh, man.
I don't know. I just, once again, shout out to the largest gang in America, the police department.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how they chose to eat their own on this one. That is.
They always do. I mean, like, I've heard friends who've had family that were high up and wanted to say things, especially, you know, back when racial profiling was, which it happens plenty today, but it was much more bold, and they were a little bit more comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to say things and wanted to correct things, but they were threatened by other people throughout the departments. And like, you know, the police are not, just because they're wearing a badge doesn't mean that they're not a criminal organization.
Yeah.
The police were started to return runaway slaves to their owners. Sheriffs were started in the late dark ages, make sure that the common people not retreat back to the commons to grow food or harvest game after the aristocracy made it illegal folks to exist or farm or hunt on common land. So people are surprised that either of these organizations are doing dastardly shit towards people of color or the economically disadvantaged, I always try to remember them. If you just read your history, this is not an aberration. This is literally the reason why they were formed. They're actually doing their job exactly like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So hats off to the police and sheriffs. Good job, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Protect and serve the wealthy.
Correct. But what I'm really wondering is, in the next 10 years, are we going to see some arc where cannabis goes to some form of normalcy, where we realize it's a plant, it's non-toxic, there's no LD50. The LD50 is like how much you need of this thing to kill someone in a dose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, lethal
non-toxic.
dose, yeah.
It's hugely beneficial. Do we get to a point where we realize it's a cancer fighter, not a cancer causer? And a lot of these incrustations of attempts to wring out more revenue from something that doesn't really have a lot in it other than being illegal and having that risk reward scenario to a point where people can just freely exist, grow and trade cannabis. You guys think we'll see that within the next 10 years?
No.
I would love to, but I'm always optimistic, but I'm realistic as well. And I think, that's a great point that the value of cannabis is because of its prohibition, right? So that's the only reason why it's expensive and it's cool to rob places, because there's value there. But I think at this part where we're seeing Big Pharma come in and we're seeing all these players enter into the game, I don't think that they're going to allow us the free trade that we should have, or allow it to be this peaceful healing plant that it should be.
Fair enough. Fair.
I feel like we need to start a movement to just grow viable cannabis seeds, not hemp seeds, but viable cannabis seeds everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Need to all become little Johnny and Jane apple seeds. And really just overgrow this whole reality. If we get to a point where all of your neighbors are growing weed, what are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What can they do? And I think more of us need to start this conversation of like, grow some plants to throw those seeds everywhere. Throw them in your bike trail. Throw them in your local bike trail. Throw them in the median when you stop to make a left-hand turn. Like, let's just overwhelm this system with cannabis.
Mm-hmm. I mean, does anyone find anything interesting how they're saying that 600 pounds of weed equals $10 million?
Please hook me up with those customers, Jason.
Tell me about, bro. You're so right about that.
I've got an ounce of weed for you for only $15,000, bro. It's
all
the best
day.
weed in the world, guaranteed.
All day.
Where are they paying those prices at? I want those customers. Call me.
Exactly. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.